What's happening, guys? We're back. Made some pretty good progress in the last couple weeks. Alright, so you're gonna have to bear with me a little bit. This is the second time I've shot this video. I had it all shot and ready to go, and then I went to edit, and somehow between the camera and the computer, I lost the clip. So, we're gonna just kind of roll with it. I might forget some stuff. I might have to jump around a little bit, but we'll do what we can do. So, last time we talked to you guys, we had the engine on the stand. We had just finished going through the intake and exhaust manifold and everything, and getting those all kind of dry fit up and figuring things out. So, first step this episode, I guess, these last couple weeks, we peeled off the exhaust manifold and the intake manifold. Got the engine off of the stand, got it on the floor, because we gotta put the transmission on. And before we put the transmission on, we gotta put the clutch on. Before we put the clutch on, we gotta put the flywheel on. So I went to bolt the flywheel up. This is the first time I've had it on since we disassembled the car, or the engine, like 3 or 4 years ago. So I had the bolts left over. So I had the leftover bolts and put them on. I found the torque spec for them. I have an S14 owner's manual, which is where I'm getting a lot of the torque specs for everything, and wiring diagrams, and just a general kind of exploded view of the car. So it's got these really nice 12-point bolts that I broke. So I went to torque them up to spec. I think the spec's like 100 foot-pounds. And I sheared the head right off of one of the bolts. So my thoughts were, well, it's got 8, 7's probably fine. So I went to torque up the rest of them and I sheared another one off. So, I imagine there's something going on with these bolts. These bolts are probably, I don't know if they're not good to reuse. Everything that I've looked up says that they should be okay to reuse. They're not like a stretch bolt, but I don't know. I sheared off 2 of them. Unfortunately, the ones that I sheared off are right next to each other, and if I would have been smart, I probably would have unthreaded one of the bolts opposite and put it in so that my 2 missing bolts were kind of opposite each other on the crank. But I was frankly so pissed off and scared of breaking another bolt that I just left it. So we have 6 out of 8 of the bolts holding the flywheel onto the engine. Hopefully it's good enough. I'm gonna order up new bolts. I'm probably gonna order up a whole bunch of parts for the car. That'll be here sometime late summer, so the next time we do rip it apart, I'll have some stuff to put in there and upgrade it. But hopefully it's good enough. If it isn't, if you know better than I do, let me know. If not, cross your fingers. So, got the clutch installed. When I went to install the clutch, I looked up in the owner's manual. They actually give you the dimensions for the clutch alignment tool. And I was gonna come out here and build one, just throw something on the lathe and make something appropriate. And then I found this little guy in my toolbox. So this is just a half drive extension, I don't know, like a 1-inch long extension. And it turns out that the small part here is about perfect to fit into the pilot bushing, and the big part fits pretty good on the pressure plate. I probably could have like wrapped some tape around this to make it even better, but it was good enough. So, got the clutch bolted up, actually torqued those ones to spec. I got braver. And then slid the transmission on it, torqued all those bolts up. That's the first time all the bolts have been in the transmission too. Normally I only run like 3 of them. So that was interesting figuring out which ones went where. Then we bolted up the starter, and then that was kind of an issue in that the way that we normally lift the engine up is kind of a cradle strap. But where the starter bolts up, it would kick the strap off to the side, and I was a little bit concerned about breaking the starter. So when we went to put the engine in the car, we had to do some re-rigging, use a ratchet strap and whatnot in order to get it in. But we got it in. So put the engine in the car. That was another issue. Our clutch slave cylinder, it's the first time this has been on the car too since we disassembled it. And it's got this little rubber pigtail on it, and that just caused a whole bunch of issues. It kept getting hung up on stuff, so, but we finally got it in. only to realize that right where this fitting is, there's a frame rail. So we pulled this off. I'm gonna look at how much clearance we actually have. I'm gonna pull this fitting out and install this on the car, check our clearance and see if I can get like a 90-degree fitting or a low profile banjo bolt even, something that'll allow us to run this guy. We might even be able to notch the frame rail just a little bit, squeak a little bit of space out of it. If we can't, we might have to go to a hydraulic throwout bearing, which would be great. It's what I want to do eventually, but it's money and we're pretty funds limited right now. So we're gonna try to do everything that we can to not require a hydraulic throwout bearing. But we got the engine in the car, we got it strapped down, reinstalled the exhaust and intake manifold, put all the bolts in them, tightened them all up, not to torque because I'm scared of the torque specs now, but tight enough. I don't know, Yamaha torqued on there. So intake and exhaust manifolds are on, put the alternator on, and then I put the, I got a belt for it, so I put just the alternator belt on. And it's a small thing, and you guys probably don't quite, it probably doesn't convey through the camera, but it's these little moments where things look a little bit more complete that kind of keep me going for the build. So seeing the engine with a belt on the front of it, all of a sudden it turned from being kind of a mock-up to being a real engine in there. So reveled at that for a minute. The exhaust is still sitting on top of the motor because I got to put an O2 plug in it. But yeah, so got that on there, engine's in, that's ready to go, kinda. And then we moved on to the fan. So this is our little low profile electric fan that we've had for a long time. This was basically the cheapest one I could find off Amazon, so might work. But we've just had it packing taped onto the back of the radiator for mock-up, and I figured we probably needed something a little bit more permanent. So it came with this mounting hardware system. That's these little Deweys. They're like a linear zip tie. So you stick this through the fins of the radiator, and then there's a little cone spring and this little doohickey thingy that you shove on there, and it ratchets it down, and then you're good to go. So I did that, and then I came out the next morning and all those had popped off. So clearly it's not meant to hold a whole lot of force, and I didn't like it. So instead we came up with a new plan. We built some solid brackets. We took a piece of aluminum, threw it in the vise, pounded it with a hammer until it had a 90-degree bend in it, trimmed it up, and built these little brackets, and then just kind of welded them onto the side there. It's an aluminum radiator, so we had a bit of trouble welding, but I subscribed to the try your best and grind the rest school of welding. So got those on there. Now our fan, we reversed the little mounting tabs on our fan to give us a little bit more height, so that when our fan drops on there, you can see we got clearance underneath here to run a bolt through and put a nut on the backside, but we also, our fan is right touching our radiator. So we needed it to be super low profile in order to clear the chassis bar, one of the chassis members. So that looks good, that'll work. We'll just put 4 1/4-inch bolts through that, and we got a fan. Oh, what else did we do? Nothing else. That was all we did. That was all we got done this week, these 2 weeks. It's gonna be cumbersome saying that every time, but so we got that done. Next episode, what are we gonna do? We're probably gonna put like our front accessories, intercooler, radiator, that kind of stuff together on the front end, put all our piping together. I got a little, I don't know if I'm gonna use this or not yet, but I got a little barb fitting that that we might just put a little bung in the charge tube because we needed a wastegate signal. I might try to find something a little bit better than this. This has got like a 3/8 MPT fitting on it. This is for hooking up to like a garden hose. It's plumbing, but it's not the plumbing that I want to deal with. But we might do that. We need to get our wastegate a signal. We need to do some vacuum line routing, things like that, in order to get that engine a little closer to firing up. We also need to do a mock dash. Basically, we're just gonna cut a panel and put things like our ignition switch, our starter, we need to put a charge light, things like that. We're gonna put on a little panel so we don't have to cut into our dash before we know how many switches we actually need. And that can live in the car for a long time. We can get the car running with a little mock dash sitting in the passenger footwell, you know, saying danger to manifold, whatever it is. So that's the plan for the next episode. Also try to not have to shoot this twice because I'm sure I forgot something, but I'm a little flustered, and we're just gonna call that good enough. So thank you so much for watching, guys. If you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button. Go check us out on Instagram, Left Foot First Media, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. I'm out of here.